In this series, I'm going to show you how to build an app like this one for adding and managing a reading list. So this has some pretty cool features. We can, of course, add in a book title here, and I'll just go like this, and we're going to add, and you can see that it gets updated straight away. We can delete, of course. By the way, we've also got really nice inline validation errors like this. And as well as that, you'll be able to click on something and edit like this, Charlie Orwell, for example. Or you can even click on something and then click off, and it all goes back to normal. So that's what we are going to be building, something like that. I don't think this is perfect. This was a little test run that I did. It will be something like that. And by the way, this is going to be based sort of, well, fairly loosely, but based on this tutorial series from the NetNinja on HTMX. NetNinja is fantastic. HTMX is fantastic. So why on earth would you want to see all of that being done here? You know, like this. What's the point? Well, it's certainly not because I am better than anyone or Trongate's competing against HTMX. That's not what we're about. But the thing is, Trongate is all about stability and making stuff easy. So this is Laravel. This is all the stuff that gets loaded with Laravel. And that's fine. But this is all of the stuff that gets loaded with Trongate. So it's very simple. And because it's simple, it means it's incredibly fast. Here's Trongate compared to other PHP frameworks, and very, very stable as well. HTMX has just gone on to another version at the time of doing this video. Trongate's different. We believe in updating and improving, but without changing version numbers and without introducing breaking changes. So that's why we're doing this, okay? All right, so introduction over. I'm going to open up the Trongate desktop app. This is available from trongate.io. It's entirely open source, entirely free of charge. It's actually just an Electron app. It's just a headless browser. Don't be too dazzled. In fact, if you want, I'll do a tutorial series and I'll show you how to run this as a Node.js app. That means you literally can see every line of code. If you want me to do that tutorial, let me know in the comments. Say in the comments, I'd like to know how to run this as a Node.js app. Just let me know, okay? Anyway, I have the Trongate desktop app. I'm going to create new app. And I should say, I've also got XAMPP up and running here. Okay, I don't know what you've got, but that's just what I've got, okay? All right. So enter app name, I'm going to say reading list. Now I am going to be going quite fast here, folks, because we've got a lot to get through. So it's going to suggest a base URL, that's fine. For database connection details, I'm going to click, going to submit, and now I'm going to choose a location. So for me, it's inside htdocs. Let's create new app, generate, and thank you very much. That's our app. Now we can view the app and it will give us something like this. It's entirely possible that yours looks different. Designs do change. Let's pretend we never saw that flash data. But yeah, it's entirely possible that yours looks a bit different. But all that happened is it grabbed Trongate from GitHub. It downloaded it as a zip file, extracted it. It did all of the configuration and it just saved us a bit of work actually. So that's what happened. No big deal. Let's not be too impressed. Now we're going to create a new module. It's going to be a new Trongate module. We're going to call this module book, okay? So at least that's the singular. It's book. We're going to submit. Now it's going to ask if you want a navigation label. This is for your admin panel. I'll just keep it on manage books. You can change it if you want. I'm just going to keep that. It's going to ask if you want an icon. Now you can have an icon if you want. I'll just say yes. Why not? Why not? And I'll do a little search for book. Here we go. And there's a little book here. But you don't need to do that. Now we're going to add some properties. So it's opening up the properties builder. I'm going to have a variable character of book title. There it is. And then I'm going to have another variable character of author. And there you go. Now you can change these values if you want. It's all possible. I'm actually quite happy. So I'm going to submit properties. All right. Now it's going to ask me to choose a URL column. I'm going to leave that out. And I'm going to choose a default order by. I'm happy to just go with ID. And I'm going to generate new module. Now for anyone who's new to Trongate, just to let you know what's going to happen here. I've actually, all of those details that were just selected are stored in local storage. Remember, this is just a headless browser. When we hit generate new module, it communicates with the Trongate website and says, here's what I want. And the Trongate website's just going to return the code. And so, that's what's happening now. And now we have our module. Here it is here. Okay, so you can see our admin panel. There's manage books on the top left. There's our icon. We can create a new book record. And because I've had a test run, I've got some autocompletes here. You may not have that, but I'm just going to add a few records here, okay? And take your time and do go ahead and add some book records if you can. Okay, I'll do one more. Actually, let me open this in my text editor. Okay. So we're in HC Docs. It's called reading list. Okay. So here we've got this modules directory. And you can see that we've got this module called books. So that's the module here that was just created, right? And again, don't worry if you think the design's rubbish. The designs change all the time. Maybe your design looks different. Don't worry about it. In fact, I'm going to go to config, themes. I'll change blue to green. Why not? Save. And there we go. Okay. So, do you see these autocompletes here? If that annoys you, you can go into views, create, and here's our form input fields. And I'm going to just add in a little comma. Auto complete is assigned to off. Like that, okay? Now there's other ways of doing that, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save, refresh, and now when I'm clicking, no more annoying autocomplete. Just thought you might like to know. Okay? So let's have Animal Farm. I'll go with George Orwell. And there you go. Okay? So look at all of the stuff that we now have. We have a full CRUD system. We've got an API Explorer, by the way. That's right. It's all here. We've got create, read, update. We've even got things like comments, a fully secure admin panel, and look at all of the stuff that you did not have to do. By the way, a quick trip to phpMyAdmin should confirm that we do indeed have our reading list database. Here it is, and there's the books table. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. The trouble is, this is all traditional web development. So we've got a separate page for viewing records, a separate page, brand new page for the form, you know. Sure, we've got validation and stuff, but it's another page for viewing records as well. So there's nothing wrong with this, but our goal today is to have all of this working, but as a single page application. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to open up our books controller file. Your code may look different. Don't worry, code changes all the time. But we're going to make a little method. I'm going to call this one demo, okay? Anything you want though. Demo's going to do for me. And I'm just going to load up a view file called demo, like that, okay? Now, you don't need to say public. I'm doing it because I like to be proper these days, but it'll work without public. But that's what we're going to have. Now, let's go into the views directory, and we're going to make a new view file called demo.php. Now, I'm using Emmet for speed, so that means I can do a little exclamation mark and a tab. And you can see that this is giving us the basics of a web page here. Now, in our head section, I'm going to add a few lines of code. I'm going to have maybe a runabout here. I'm going to say link tab, and it's going to link to a style sheet. Now, Trongate comes with a few different style sheets. The one that we want is inside public CSS, and it's called Trongate.css. It's just a nice little style sheet. It'll make life easier, okay? So to link to that, we can say, let's echo base URL. Now, the base URL is defined inside config, and please give Trongate a star on GitHub if you can. But that's where it's getting this base URL from. So we can say base URL, we can say CSS, Trongate.css. Okay. Now, if I just go like, let's see, let's have a div with a container. So it's going to be a class of container -xs. All right, we'll have a little div like this and an h1 that says my reading list. Okay, so just save that. And now we're going to go to books/demo. And you should have something like this, okay? You can actually see that the style sheet is doing its job here. If this was not here, it would look like this, okay? So that's what we should have. Now, what else can we do? Well, let me show you something kind of cool, actually. This is a new thing. I only discovered this a few days ago. Do you know that you can have a base tag up here? Like this, base href equals, and we can actually chuck our base URL in here, like that. I never even knew it. Seems like the whole world knew about this except me, but by doing that, it means that we can have these nice addresses here. We don't have to call this base URL everywhere. Kind of cool. So let's have another line. We're going to say script source equals, and it's going to be now the Trongate MX is inside this JS folder, which is in the public directory. So to get that, I'm going to just say JS Trongate-mx.js and save. Now check it out. You can see that it still works. That's because we've defined our base here. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Okay. So let's now have a little div here with an ID of result. And I'm going to write the word loading in 3 dots, okay? So save, refresh, looks kind of good. And underneath this, I'm going to have an H2. And I'm going to say, what would you like to read? Like that. Save and refresh. Not too bad. Okay. Now let's do a little bit of CSS to make this page look a bit more like this page. Won't be exact, but it'll be kind of close, right? So what we can do is on the result div, we're going to have a class of blink. Okay, so save that. And if I zoom you in, can you see how loading is now blinking? That's right. Pretty cool, pretty cool. All right. Now, the next thing we can do is we can add a little margin top. So I'm going to add a class of MT3. So that means margin top 3M, you know? And then we can have one downstairs. So MB margin bottom -3. And there you go. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. So when our page refreshes, this thing's going to be loading like this, and it's going to fetch a list that will be displayed like that, okay? But let's do a little bit more CSS here. In fact, I'm going to do this on the page just for speed. So I'll say style, I'm going to say body, background color, it's hash symbol EEE, all the E's. Then I'm going to say color, now that's the font color. I'll say little hash symbol 111. Let's save, have a little refresh, and don't it make you feel good? All right, now let's say, now these numbers might not be perfect, but I'll say H1 font size 28 pixels, H2 font size 22 pixels. Then I'm going to say H1 comma H2, so that means the two of these. I'll say text align center. So save, refresh, and there you go. Kind of cool, right? Now, if you want, you can have your loading thing in the center as well. It's not a problem. You would just add a class on of text center like that. So we're stacking these classes on. And as you can see, that now goes in the center. All right. Now, I want to take a break from this page, and I want us to make a new endpoint on our books controller. So go back to books.php. And we're going to have a little method here. I'm going to call this one list. And it's going to just fetch, you can do a comment if you want, fetch and display a list of books. Okay? We're not bothering with any of this stuff. We actually could reuse all of this if we wanted to, but I don't think it would be helpful for this tutorial, right? So, how do we fetch the books? Well, the first thing is I'm going to just echo OK. And then I'm going to go to books/list, and you can see that this is the page here. So the way that we're going to fetch the books is we're going to say data rows is this model get, and I'm going to order by ID. That's it. Now that's going to load up Trongate's model class. It's going to fetch all of the books, and it's going to order them by ID. We could go like this, by the way, and add in the name of the table. But if we don't do that, Trongate will just fetch the name of the table from the URL. It's not a problem. So that's going to be fine. So having fetched the books, we're going to say this. Let's load up a view file, and I'll call it list, or you can call it books list if you want. Doesn't matter, anything you want. I'll just call it list. And I'm going to pass in the data. Okay, so let's make a new file here. This is going to be called list.php. And I'm going to just have a UL like this with an ID of books list. So it's an unordered list. I'm going to go into PHP. Let me make that a bit bigger. And I'll say for each rows as row, like this. Now, we could say echo and do list items and stuff. In fact, I'll do that right now. Hello, okay? Like that. That'll be fine, just for now, right? So save and refresh. And there you go. So it knows that we've got 3 books, okay? Fine. Now what I want to do is head to books/demo. And I know that that endpoint thing is not perfect, but I do want to show you how to load that so that it goes inside this result div here. So the way that we do that is we're going to use Trongate MX, and we're going to add in these MX attributes. So we say MX-get equals. So where are we going to get it from? Well, it's books/list. That's the URL, okay? However, we have to declare what the trigger event's going to be. So what needs to happen for this to fetch the stuff from that URL? Well, I'm going to say MX trigger equals load. All right. So that means as soon as this page loads, we're going to fetch the stuff from this endpoint here. Now let's save this, refresh. There's our list appearing. We save. It's so fast, by the way, we cannot see the loading thing. So if you want, you can go to the list endpoint and say sleep. And in these little brackets, we'll say 2. That means 2 seconds. So if we save and refresh, do you see the loading thing? And then boom, there you go. And again, boom, perfect. Now I'm going to take this out because I'm happy with it being fast. And now let's bring this to life, okay? So I'm going to go out of PHP and I'll just have a little li like this, just HTML, right? I'm going to have a div. Now the div is going to have an h3. I'm going to go into PHP and echo row book title like this. Okay, if you want to be super paranoid about security and really safe, you could say out row book title. That's going to make sure that any dangerous characters get removed, you know. So let's do that. Let's have a paragraph. And again, I'll say out. It's going to be row author like that. Okay, then outside of the div, I'm going to have a button and the button is going to say the word delete. So save that and refresh. And there you go. It looks terrible. All right. So the rest of this video is just going to be a little bit of CSS and we're going to make it look decent. Okay. So let's say in our style area here, we're going to say for an ID, so a little hash symbol of books list, let's have a background color of all the Ds. If we save and refresh, there you go. Let's also have a text align left, by the way. There we go. Okay. And I do that because you can see that we had added in a text center here, you know. Okay. So we'll have that. Let's also say, do you see these little dots here? See them? Let's get rid of those. And we'll get rid of those by saying list style type none. All right, that's pretty cool. Let's also say padding 24 pixels. All right, now one more thing. Border radius 12 pixels. All right, that's pretty cool. So let's now say, if we're talking about our books list and it's a list item, so li, well, for that situation, we're going to say display type is flex. Flex direction is row. Align items is center. And justify content, space between. I know that I'm going a bit fast, but we do have a lot to cover. So let me just save this and refresh. And there we go. Okay. Now, let's get the buttons looking decent, and that'll be us, right? So I'm going to say that buttons on this particular site are going to have a background color of tomato. Save and refresh. Good. Now let's do the border. Border 1 pix. Actually, yeah, border 1 pix. Tomato solid. You can do 2 pix if you want as well. That's fine. Okay. Now, let's do the hover events. So I'm going to say button :hover. And the way that we do this is we right click and inspect. And we're looking for a little color picker. Do you see it here? I'm just going to drag down just a little bit. Doesn't have to be an exact science. I'm just going to copy. And I'll say background color is that. And the border, I'm going to make these ones 2 pixels. 2 pix, that solid. Okay, so save and refresh. And there you go. That's excellent. Now, one more thing just to finish off, and just because we can, let's have a transition of 0.3 seconds and save it. So that means now that if we hover, we just get this nice little transition effect. And I think that is fantastic, okay? So that's the end of the video. Just to show you the sleep feature working, it loads it up and then it presents the records. It's fantasticola. Well done. And I'll see you in the next one.